The courtyard of Ridgewood High went dead silent the moment the first punch landed. You could hear the slap of knuckles against cheekbone echo off the brick walls like a gunshot. The new girl, Aaliyah Brooks, staggered back 2 steps, books tumbling from her arms, green binder splitting open on the concrete. Blood already dotted her lip. 4 Letterman jackets closed in, laughing, phones up, recording. Then, in the split second before the second punch could fly, something impossible happened. The smallest of the bullies, a smirking red-headed senior named Connor Hayes, flew backward through the air as if yanked by an invisible wire. He hit the ground hard, varsity jacket flapping like a broken wings, eyes wide with a confusion that instantly turned to terror. Standing where he'd been was Aaliyah, posture perfect, fists raised, feet already sliding into a low horse stance. The laughter died in every throat, and 30 cell phone cameras caught the exact moment the food chain at Ridgewood High flipped upside down. But that's the moment everyone already saw 1,000,000 times on TikTok. Let me take you back to how we got there, because the real story didn't start with the fight. It started 3 months earlier, on a rainy September morning when a quiet black girl in a hoodie walked into homeroom carrying scars no one could see yet. Aaliyah Brooks was 17, 5'4" in sneakers, and spoke so softly that teachers sometimes asked her to repeat herself twice. She had transferred from a tiny charter school across the river after her mother took a night shift nursing job at Ridgewood General. On paper, nothing about her screamed trouble. She wore the same 3 hoodies in rotation, kept her braids tight and neat, and never raised her hand even when she clearly knew the answer. To most of the senior class, she was background noise, just another new kid who'd stay invisible until graduation. The football team saw something different. To them, Aaliyah was fresh prey. She was pretty in a way that made people look twice, walked with her shoulders squared like someone used to being watched, and most dangerous of all, she never reacted when they catcalled her in the hallway. Connor Hayes, team captain and reigning king of Ridgewood, took her silence as weakness. He'd grown up believing the world bent for people who looked like him, red hair, rich parents. Starting quarterback since sophomore year, and he intended to remind everyone of the natural order. His crew, Dylan, Marcus, and Trent, followed his lead like wolves who'd learned the alpha always eats first. The harassment started small. A shoulder check in the lunch line that sent her tray flying. A whispered slur when she passed their table. Someone poured chocolate milk over her backpack while she was in gym. Each time, Aaliyah simply cleaned up, kept her head down, and walked away. Teachers noticed, of course, but Connor's father sat on the school board, and football season was sacred in this town. Warnings were given. Nothing changed. What nobody at Ridgewood knew, what nobody could have guessed, was that Aaliyah Brooks had spent the last 9 years of her life training 6 days a week in a cinder block dojo that smelled like sweat and camphor. Her father, a Marine who'd served 3 tours in Afghanistan, had put her in karate at age 8 because he wouldn't always be there to protect her. He'd made her promise one thing: never start a fight, but always finish it. After he died from an Eid outside Kandahar when she was 14, the dojo became church, therapy, and family all at once. She earned her junior black belt at 15, then her shodan at 16, one of the youngest in the state. She could break boards, bricks, and when necessary, bones, with precision that made grown men flinch. But she'd also taken an oath. Power without restraint is just violence wearing a fancy belt. So she kept her gi folded in the back of her closet and her hands in her pockets, until the day Connor decided to make an example of her. It was a Thursday, early October, the air crisp enough to see your breath. Aaliyah was cutting across the courtyard to avoid the main hallway where Connor's crew usually posted up. She never saw the setup. Dylan and Marcus blocked her path, while Trent filmed from the side. Connor stepped in close, smiling the same smile he used on referees when he wanted a flag thrown. "Yo, scholarship," he said, using the slur they'd invented for her. "You lost or something." Aaliyah tried to step around him. Connor mirrored her, putting a hand on her shoulder, hard. "I'm talking to you." That was the first mistake. She looked up at him then, really looked, and something in her eyes made the smile falter for half a second. but half a second was too late. He shoved her hard, meaning to send her sprawling for the cameras. Instead, the world slowed down. Aaliyah's left hand snapped up, trapping his wrist in an iron coat geisha lock. Her hips twisted. Shoulder dropped and Connor left the ground. He flew 5 feet and landed flat on his back, the wind leaving his lungs in a whoosh that sounded like a popped balloon. The courtyard gasped as one organism. Connor scrambled up, face scarlet, ego bleeding. "You little." He swung wild. Aaliyah slipped inside the punch like water, palms striking his solar plexus just hard enough to fold him in half. As he doubled over, she pivoted, sweeping his legs. He hit the ground again, this time harder. Dylan lunged next, angry and stupid. Aaliyah caught his arm mid-swing, redirected his momentum, and used his own weight to flip him over her hip. He landed beside Connor with a thud that cracked the camera audio. Marcus, bigger and smarter than the others, hesitated. That hesitation cost him. Aaliyah's roundhouse kick caught him just below the ribs, perfect Takedown strike with the blade of her foot. He dropped to his knees, mouth open in a silent scream. Trent, still filming, finally realized this wasn't going the way they planned. He took one step back. Aaliyah's voice cut through the stunned silence, low and steady. "Put the phone down?" He did. It clattered on the concrete like surrender. 30 seconds. 4 bullies on the ground, not a single punch thrown by the girl in the hoodie. The courtyard erupted, cheers, gasps. Students running from every direction. Someone started chanting, "Out! Black belt!" Phones were everywhere now, live streams blowing up. Principal Hargrove pushed through the crowd, face purple, shouting for order. Aaliyah simply lowered her fists, stepped over Connor's groaning body, and picked up her scattered books. Blood still trickled from her split lip, the only mark any of them had managed to leave on her. She wiped it with the back of her hand, looked straight into the nearest camera, and spoke the line that would get 10 million views in 24 hours. "I really didn't want to do that." Then she walked away, braids swinging, while the kings of Ridgewood High lay in the dirt wondering what the hell just happened. Word traveled faster than the principal's emergency faculty meeting. By lunchtime, the video had hit World Star, TikTok, Twitter, everywhere. Hashtags exploded, even Ridgewood black belt fade, don't mess with her, 5-carat girl. News vans showed up before the final bell. Aaliyah tried to hide in the library, but reporters found her anyway. She gave one interview, calm, polite, eyes still carrying that quiet storm. "I was told to walk away," she told the local anchor. "They didn't let me." Connor's father threatened lawsuits. The school board threatened expulsion. But the video was too clean, too undeniable, and public opinion swung hard the other way. Petitions circled. Alumni donated to a defense fund nobody ended up needing. Because when the disciplinary hearing came, something else surfaced. Security footage from the past month showing every unprovoked shove, every spilled tray, every racial slur hissed in hallways. The school's attempt to punish Aaliyah collapsed under its own hypocrisy. Instead, they suspended the 4 boys for 30 days and stripped Connor of his captaincy. The football team forfeited the rest of the season when half the offensive line refused to play without their starting quarterback. Ridgewood went from undefeated to irrelevant overnight. And Aaliyah, she didn't gloat. She went back to class the next day in the same hoodie, sat in the same seat, and kept getting straight A's. But something had shifted in the hallways. People nodded when she passed now. Freshmen asked for selfies. The chess club begged her to join. She started eating lunch with the robotics team, laughing in a way nobody had heard before. One Friday, 6 weeks after the courtyard, the dojo where she'd trained since childhood held a small ceremony. Her sensei, a wary Japanese-American man in his 70s named Nakamura Sensei, called her forward in front of 50 students and parents. He unwrapped a brand new black belt, the kanji for courage, embroidered in gold on one end. When he tied it around her waist, his voice thick, he said the belt wasn't for the 4 boys she'd put down. It was for the 9 years she'd spent learning when not to. Aaliyah cried then, quietly, while everyone bowed. The final scene, the one that still gives me chills, happened at graduation 8 months later. Aaliyah walked across the stage in her cap and gown to collect her diploma. The entire senior class rose in a standing ovation that lasted 3 full minutes. Even teachers were clapping. Connor Hayes sat in the back row, no longer wearing his Letterman jacket, eyes on the floor. When Aaliyah's name was called, she paused at the podium, looked out at 1,800 people on their feet for her, and spoke into the microphone with that same soft voice that once got lost in homeroom. My dad used to say the strongest people are the ones who don't need to prove they're strong. Thank you for reminding me he was right. The cheers shook the rafters. She went on to accept a full-ride scholarship to Howard University, majoring in mechanical engineering with a minor in peace and conflict studies, because some lessons you carry forward. The dojo named its annual Courage Award after her father. And every year on the anniversary of the courtyard fight, a new video gets posted. Someone slows down the footage frame by frame, zooms in on her eyes right before the first move, and the comments always say the same thing. You can actually see the moment she decides mercy is over. So that's the real story of the quiet girl who dismantled an entire hierarchy without ever raising her voice. Not just a beatdown, a revelation. Proof that real power doesn't scream. It doesn't need a crowd, and it never ever brags afterward. It just ties its hoodie, picks up its books, and keeps walking. And somewhere out there tonight, another kid who feels invisible is watching that video on repeat, learning what Aaliyah Brooks taught all of us: walk softly until the moment the world refuses to let you. Then show them what a black belt really means. What about you? Have you ever been counted out, underestimated, pushed too far? Drop your story in the comments. I read every single one. If this story lit something up inside you, do me a favor. Hit that like button, share it with someone who needs to hear it today. And if you love real-life redemption arcs told like blockbuster movies, smash subscribe and ring the bell. We drop a new cinematic story every single week. Until next time, stay dangerous in the best possible way. This is Eternal Stories, and we're just getting started. Peace.